Well, hello there, drop bears and hoop snakes. Welcome to episode 2 of the World Builders Compendium here at Dungeons and Dragons Australia. Firstly, a big thank you to everybody who joined us last week and have watched the recording after the fact. And a big, massive thank you to everybody who was a part of last week's session, both in and out of stream. A little bit of housekeeping first. Number one is that I don't have any unseen servants with me today, so if there's any technical issues whatsoever, please pop it up in the chat so that I'm aware, because I haven't got any little goblins running around in the background. So we'll see how that goes. This is my first foray into running a stream on my own. I am not particularly tech savvy. As I like to say, I'm studying naturopathy and nutrition, not IT. We'll see how we go. Just, yeah, let us know if anything goes wrong. We'll hope for the best. Number two is, as you can see, I'm in a different environment. I've been kicked out of my office because we have a temporary housemate that's staying with us. So I'm now in the lounge room where distractions are bountiful. And also my chair keeps rolling backwards on the tiles. So I'll probably be moving around a lot. So there's all that to contend with, but hopefully we go off without a hitch, and that, you know, after a long rest, I'll have some more spell slots, and we'll be able to cast Unseen Servant for next week. We'll see how we go. Well, before we get started, I do have some questions from the lovely L. I think they had a proper name. It just says L dot dot dot. Either way, I've got some questions from the Discord. Number one, have you used fractal terrains to generate world maps and then imported them into Campaign Cartographer 3? If yes, do you have a preference of one method over another, and why? Yay for humble bundles. Firstly, yes, yay for humble bundles, and hopefully this month the suite of Campaign Cartographer and the Pro Fantasy software will be back up on Humble Bundle for nice and cheap, and as soon as I see that, you bet your bottom dollar, drop bears, that I'll be popping up that link quickety lickety quick. But in answer to the question, I haven't actually used fractal terrains before. I remember a few years ago I gave it a try. Got a little bit overwhelmed by it, cracked it, closed the program, and haven't picked it up since. I was using it on a friend's computer, so I don't actually have it installed. That being said, I'd love to give it another go, so I might purchase it next pay cycle, and maybe we can experiment with it together and come to a conclusion. So yeah, too long didn't read is no, I haven't used it, and so therefore, just by default, my preference is to manually build the worlds like we are currently. We'll see how we go. Question number two was, I have bounced on and off Campaign Cartographer 3+ due to its complexity. How long would you say your learning curve was with the program? Now, I sort of answered this one in the Discord. Because I felt like is an easy one to answer, but I'll answer it again now. It does get a bit of a bad reputation because it is actually really expensive full price. Like, there is no way that I'd be using this program at full price. I just don't have that kind of money as a student. But once I did get it on Humble Bundle and had the full suite of, well, mostly the full suite of tools available to me, the learning curve wasn't really that big due to just watching the Pro Fantasy YouTube channel. The developers get up there every week and do a live mapping, and they, despite having been having done these live streams for years now, they still go through the basics as if they know there's always going to be somebody watching that has never used the program before. So they'll always run through literally every single little thing that they do, from right clicking to left clicking, pointing out all of the different tools on the side panel, really good, makes things so much easier. And what I usually do is I just watch the videos that interest me and then apply what I learn from that. So recently, for example, they had something about making train tracks in whatever style you wanted to, just by using the simple tools like this and some commands, and I found that really helpful. And we may even be using that lesson today. And yeah, you know what? Sometimes I forget things, so I have to go back and watch the video again just to be like, oh, that's right, it's T offset. But not, it is a complex program, but thanks to the developers doing these streams, it just makes it really accessible, I think. But yeah, don't just open up this program and expect to just be able to work it out. It's quite complicated. Question number 3 was, I've also used Incarnate to make maps in the past. Maybe it's not the best for world maps, but it's pretty good for more localized maps. Do you have a preference of one over the other stylistically? Look, I like Incarnate. I really do. It is a free program, and we'll play with it a little bit today because I've got my my tablet set up properly now. The reason I sort of steered away from it was that I was finding that a lot of the maps ended up looking the same. So, like, there's not really there's a few different symbols, even when I was paying for it. There's a lot of different symbols, but there wasn't that diversity that you'd find in Campaign Cartographer 3, for example. And the other problem is that my internet is actually an emaciated rat running on a wheel. It can be worse than dial-up sometimes. It is absolute trash. So having a web-based graphic design program is just not, like, I was waiting for an hour for things to save, and it was just painful. So having something that's offline that I can work with, even if I go out bush, I take my laptop with me, I can still make maps. You're not sort of stuck with having to have an internet. That being said, for a free suite, it is absolutely awesome, and there is ways that you can import your own stuff into Incarnate as well. We'll have a look at that today. But personally, I just prefer Campaign Cartographer 3 because it is a much more powerful program and it isn't inherently online. And it allows me to build huge maps without having to worry about what my internet is doing. And there's a huge catalogue of styles to choose from. Number 4, when world building, would you say you always start at the macro and work to the micro, or have you tried a more local area and built out from there? Why/why not? I guess, look, for a stream, I've sort of started big and then we're going to zoom in a little bit just because there's a bit more of a, what would you say, system to that. Like, you can see that flow. It makes more sense as far as like an episode type setup that we've got going on here. But yeah, no, I definitely build localized maps or have an idea for something to throw in the world and then sort of think about where I'm going to put it. And whether I have a preference of one over the other. The thing about building your world like we are now, like building the world proper, and then sort of zooming in on things, means that if I sit there and go, oh, I've got this idea for an under ocean cave that sort of opens up into an air pocket, and there's a bunch of mer people who hang out in there and have raves. Let's just say I come up with that idea. It means that I can sort of know where I'm going to put that for it to stylistically make sense and culturally make sense. But look, there's not one way to do anything. I just sort of like to have an idea as to what my world entails, and then I sort of think about the micro stuff, as you say. But yeah, there is definitely no reason why you can't sit there and build a world around a micro concept like the rave cave of mer people. You can definitely build around that. I'm just choosing to go from the out in because it makes more sense as far as a stream goes. And number 5, will you be using the full suite of Campaign Cartographer 3 Plus like Dungeon Designer, City Designer as I build down? Have you used other software for map making as the city and dungeon levels? Okay, so this one's an interesting one because I don't want to give any spoilers. I will be showing the full suite of Dungeon Designer and City Designer and friends, so you get a good idea as to what Campaign Cartographer can do. But I've got like 8 different programs that I use for maps depending on what I'm doing, and we will be going through all of them, and some of them are really cool, and I bet you won't expect what at least 2 of them are going to be. So, you know, like any job, different tools do different jobs, and Campaign Cartographer can do it all, but I found there are some other map making programs and some other programs that aren't even designed for map making that do a really good job and produce some beautiful maps, so, and are actually fun to build. So we'll get to those when we get to those. But for now, that's all the questions. My hair is prohibiting my headset from sitting on my head properly, so every now and then it will just sort of start migrating south. Hopefully it doesn't fall off. But with all those questions said and done, let's get stuck into it. So last week we created this beautiful map, and I noticed after watching the stream back that because my window was actually expanded out, we were sort of cutting off all of the side tools here. So I was telling you, oh, click on this button, click on that button, and there was nothing there for you to see. So this week I've squished it down a little bit so that way we can see the full screen. So now you can see the buttons that I'm talking about. So I'm not just, you know, shooting into the wind. So roll up the sleeves. I was thinking today we might have a play around with maybe mapping out this here continent. On a world map, we're not going to be going super crazy. We're not going to be putting every single little river, every single little creek, every single little, like, you know, goblin fart that appears on the map. It's an overworld map. We just want to give people the idea of, oh, okay, this continent is, you know, mostly tropical, whatever. When it comes to actually doing a proper continental map, we'll put it on its separate, on a separate map, and we'll go from there. The other thing is that if you put literally every single little detail on your world map and even your continent map, you've now just boxed yourself in. You can't just be like, oh, actually, there's a river here, without your players sort of going, hold on, it's not on the map. Yeah, you can have some creative license and be sort of backpedal a little bit, but I feel like you just want to give the idea of, okay, here are the major rivers, here are the mountains. You know, you can't, if you put everything in there, when you zoom out, it's just going to look cluttered and stylistically not my jam. We're all different. Maybe you like it when it's fully populated, but given that we can link everything up and make everything in Campaign Cartographer at least, we can sort of link this continent up to its continental map, and then we can link that city, and this can be the all-in-one thing. There is absolutely no reason to try and jam everything on here. But that being said, we will play a little bit with this here continent. Remember, friends, we are going to try and come up with a name together, because otherwise I'll just name it after a flower in its Latin name. I'm not the best at coming up with names with places, but I do know a little bit of Latin naming, so I tend to go for that because it sounds fancy. Alrighty, so what we have here is a little continent that looks kind of like a strange Africa that's been sort of smushed in with a bit of Europe, I think. Sort of. What I think the best thing to start would be is actually we're going to chuck down a equator. So let's, just so we've got an idea as to how we can start building our zones. There she is. And did that actually work? Possibly not. Alright, we'll try that again. Line. So using this point-to-point tool, we're going to go from here to there. I want to make the line straight because, I mean, it doesn't really matter. Okay, so that tool does not want to work for me. That's totally fine. Not too sure why. Let's see. We'll see if this one does what we want it to do. Like I say, I'm not going to pretend like I know how this program works 100%. I am making things up. There we go. Making things up as I go along half the time. So what I'm going to do is actually change the color of it so it's actually that magenta color. So I'm going to come over here and click that sort of paint bucket. Click on the line, press D for do it, and we are going to fill style solid, and the color will go over here and we'll pick this sexy pink color so it really pops out. Sheet, we don't want it on sheet, we'll chuck it on we'll leave it on land for now, because what I'll actually do is make it a separate sheet for it so we can just delete it easily later. So we go up to where it says land, or we can click on this yellow explodey box. It comes up with the sheets. I'm going to add a new sheet. It's basically like another layer in Photoshop. And I'm going to add, I don't know, equator line. And we're going to spell it incorrectly. Beautiful. Alright. Then we're going to right click on that yellow explodey box, move to sheet, click the line. We'll see down the bottom here it says select entities, one picked. Amazing. D for do it. It's automatically a clicked equator line. Beautiful. So, like most programs that involve layers and such, our sheets are in layers. So if you put something down and you find, oh, it's not appearing, you may find that it's on a lower layer. So you just need to move them around. So for example, this equator line, if we were to move that up all the way up to here, behind land, you'd see that it sort of ends up going behind the land. So that's kind of cool. Show all. No, we don't really want to do that. We'll move that all the way back down again because, like I say, we kind of want that on top to help us think about what we're doing. We are going to hide the sketch layer, hide the key text layer. So that way we've just got the map to play with. So that's a pretty good, I mean, it's not perfectly in the middle. We can move that line if we want to, but it's fine. It's going to do the job we want it to do. So at this point, we can either sort of use our own knowledge as to how our world is put together in real life, with obviously the things that are closer to the equator are generally warmer, more tropical. Or we can sort of, what we can also do is pull up a map of our world and sort of get some inspiration. I'm thinking that what we'll do is just sort of follow what, we won't pull up any maps, because you know we're here to make things up as we go. What we will do is we'll just sort of start with the idea of the north being more cold, the equator being more hot, and sort of go from there. So with this continent, which is as of yet unnamed, we're going to pull up our drawing tools, which is the pencil and the hammer. And so that northern sort of point on our continent, sort of around in here, may be slightly snow covered. So what we're going to do is get our ice field. We're going to zoom on in so it makes our life a little bit easier. We may even turn off our sheet effects for now, so that way we can actually grab things a bit easier too. Because what we're going to do is that trace function, like we did last week. We are going to click our point here, press T for trace, and try and grab, and it's doing that thing that it likes to do. So sometimes it can be a bit of a pig, and that's okay. I'm sure I'm probably just doing it wrong. We'll zoom in nice and close so I can actually see what I am doing. So T for trace, starting point will go there, and it still wants to go that way. Can be a bit of a pig. Try it again. We'll say that Incarnate definitely does this a little bit better. Simply because you can use your pen on the screen, it kind of just makes this side of stuff a bit easier. But not everybody has a drawing tablet, you know? And I think as far as like, you know, dungeon masters, not everybody's an artist, and I think it's a bit unreasonable to assume that everybody's got a drawing tablet. So at least with CC3, it's very much designed around the mouse point and click kind of adventure, rather than like trying to just assume that everybody's going to have a professional tablet, because that's just unreasonable. All right, and it's still being a pig. All right, no worries, that's fine. We'll come through here. It's fine. It's not fine, but... Alright, so we're going to come along here with our snowfields. Doesn't need to be perfect. And we're going to come up to here, press T for trace, hope for the damn best. And realize that it's being a pig. Alrighty. No, it wasn't. Ugh, showing me up. Okay. Press escape. T for trace. Starting point of portion. Come on. Why are you like this? Okay, let's zoom all the way in, because it could be a case of me just being a silly lady. Yes, it is a case of me being a dingus. Alright, no worries. I love that. Bring it all the way down and around. Oop, too far. Clickety, clackety. And there we go. We've got a little bit of a frosted tips kind of thing going on up here. So we want to sort of have a look at what that looks like. We activate our sheet effects again. It's not really doing what we want it to do, is it? So what I think we might do is make a second ice section, because it's a bit too blended out. You know, if you look at that map now, you're not going to say, oh, that's clearly an icy section. You're going to be like, oh, that's a nice beach. Not really getting our point across. So we are going to grab this. I'm going to go add. We're going to go We'll call it snow to sort of separate it. We'll grab this bad boy here. We're going to copy, pop it down, because we still want an edge fade. We just don't want it quite as hectic as what is on there at the moment. So we're going to uncheck the sheet effects, and then we shall right click, move to sheet, grab it, D for do it, terrain, snow, super duper, activate sheet effects. Now, there's no difference because we haven't played with the edge fade yet. So percent, let's see what happens if we go map units. Oh, that's a bit hectic. Edge width, let's see if we go 15. It's a little bit better. Might try it at 25. I think 15 kind of gets the job done a bit better. Does seem a little bit in your face, but as we start to add some mountains and stuff, you know, it'll chill out. But that's a good start. So, speaking of mountains, I'm thinking that, you know, generally mountains come from, you know, lands pushing together, tectonic plates and all that. I'm thinking that I might have a bit of a mountain range running sort of through there. Maybe cutting down through here a little bit. Remembering that we're just doing a bit of an overview when it comes to the world map. Nothing is exact because, you know, it's a bit different to looking at a satellite image of Earth, where, yeah, all the details are there, but when you zoom out, it's sort of, you just get the idea of what's going on. Because we're not doing a satellite view. If we're going to argue, it's essentially like somebody has drawn this map. I just like the styles that make it look more realistic. But yeah, we don't want to go too crazy with putting every single little detail in, because then you do kind of shoehorn yourself in a little bit. So what we are going to do is we're going to find our base for the mountains. And I'm thinking I quite like, what? A bit freezy. The hills are kind of nice. They're the same sort of base that we used through here. So thankfully, hills is below the snow layer, so we don't have to play with the trace function again. But we are going to sort of come along through here. That's going to be a nice big mountain through there. Yeah, let's move our screen across so we can sort of see what we're doing. Saucy. Look at that. Lovely. Clickety, 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 clack. Beautiful. And that's sort of faded in a little bit. I'm thinking again, what we'll do is we'll make a sheet for our mountains. Or we can chuck that on the mountain sheet that already exists. That could be a good idea. So right click on the yellow explodey boxes and move to sheet. We can also copy to sheet. So that means that it's in two places at once. Oh, that wind is picking up. I'm pretty sure I just heard something take flight outside. Oh dear. Hopefully it's nothing important. Alright, so we've got you collected. We've pressed F instead of D for do it. So let's just do this again just to make sure. I got distracted by something flying around out the front. Let's move it to terrain mountains. See what happens. It's much the same sort of feel. It is sitting over the snow, so what we might do is move that up so the snow's on top. Yes. Okay. That's quite nice. For now. We're going to add more stuff, and we can always tinker as we go. We don't need to be perfect off the bat. So, now we're going to add some mountains. This is where we start going into our symbol catalogue. So these little pictures along down here are our symbol catalogues. What I'm going to actually do is hit this open folder, because it's actually opened a different symbol catalogue, because I was making a map the other day for my table, and I was building a waterfall, so I had this cool you know, this cool waterfall section of things. So yeah, not relevant. So what we are going to do is go to symbols, maps, 13th age revisited, and I'm going to go mountains to keep it specific. Now any PNG is going to work, so that's fine. So there's a couple of things that we can do looking through this. Couple of ways in which to go about peeling this banana. We can either plop these guys down like so, plop, then pressing tab to get different ones, although this one doesn't want to play ball, that's fine. Ugh, showing me up. I think these ones are up here. Okay, the tab function's not working. Good-o. Let's see what happens. That's a bit rude. Cool. I love this for me. Well, normally you can press tab and it cycles through the different symbols. My computer's a little bit grumpy today, doesn't like the cold weather, so I'll blame it on that. So we can either put them through manually, scaling them as we see fit, or we can actually, there's a cool tool in this 13th age revisited map set. Here it is, mountain default, mountain snow. So what we can do is, actually we'll get rid of that last mountain that we placed. Alright, whatever. Cool. One picked, D, do it. Go away. So the other thing that we can do is, yeah, pick this mountain range snow, and then what we can sort of do is go. I'm not following the line too closely, just to sort of show that, like, yeah, it can sort of pop them down for you. But it kind of does it like throwing spaghetti at the wall and just seeing what happens. So I appreciate the tool. I think it's quite cool. I'm rhyming there. But it kind of looks like a bit of a hot mess. So not a fan of doing it that way. And then it also leaves this line behind as well, like a little snail trail. It's a bit gross. So I prefer to do it manually. That being said, if you like that tool and you can actually get it to function the way that like you want it to, then chef kiss, go, you know, knock yourself out. I'm not so much of a fan though. And I have decided that actually I think that looks better on top. It literally makes no difference. Okay, no worries. So here we are with the mountains. We can even put some volcanoes down later, which is pretty cool. Look at that. Super saucy. Alrighty, so we want the grey mountains with some snow on top. The way that we make things bigger and or smaller is we hold control and literally just move our mouse up and down. Pretty simple. For moving in a circle, we hold shift and it spins around, but it sort of spins in a snapping like motion. So if you want free movement, we hold shift and control down and we can spin things around. Is it an intuitive way to do things? No. Does it work? Sometimes. But at the end of the day, it does what it says on the box. So let us have a look at our different various mountains, because apparently we can't just nicely cycle through them with tab anymore. I've probably turned off a setting accidentally. Seems like something I would do. Oh, I see that we had a little brief disconnect. I'll be calling Telstra today, ladies and gents, because I am so sick of this internet. It's not even funny. So after our session today, I'm pulling the pin. I'm done talking to my partner about this. We need functional internet. It kicked me out of my last exam. So I'm done. I'm done playing the internet game. Our internet is terrible in Australia. Alright, anyways. Here we have a nice mountain. Amazing. How are we going to make this look nice? Because if we just start throwing stuff down, right, it looks like you've just thrown things down. So, we're going to be smart about this. What we're going to do is we're going to sort of start in a direction where it makes sense for some parts to be covered. Now, the good thing about Incarnate is that with a pen, you can just sort of go, and it puts it all down where you put the pen down. Chef kiss. I'll show you that after I've done this mountain range. But for this map making tool, it's a little bit more tedious. We've got to actually think about where we're putting things. So, mountain grey. We don't necessarily want these ones to be snow-topped, so we'll scroll up at this point and we'll find our grey mountains there. And what we're going to do is sort of pick out... Oh, that's right, the tab key's not working. That's so painful. Pick out some mountains that we like. Don't mind that. Oh. Sometimes it moves. There we go. Would very much like to know why the tab function is not working, because it is very annoying. So we zoom out and you can sort of see we've got ourselves a bit of a mountain range happening. So there's a couple of things that we can do here. We've got making things a bit bigger and smaller. And as we start entering into the snow section, let's start changing them out for some snow. Still pressing tab, hopefully, but nothing is occurring. Ugh. This is painful. Okay. But you can see what I mean by sometimes things sort of cover over each other, and it's not necessarily very pretty. So swing that around, put that there, and then we want like a nice big juicy mountain just there. So we're going to find the sauciest of all the mountains. Maybe that can go sort of there. And then if we sort of zoom out, you can sort of see that we've got a bit of a mountain range happening. Now, if we switchity-swatchity over to Incarnate, we're going to create a new map. Just keep it simple, stupid. Keeping in mind that I've stopped paying the membership for this, so we're just going to use the free version. And this is kind of what I mean by it's kind of why I moved away from it, because I kind of want to build a map today, not next year. And we patiently wait. And at this point, I think we'll go for a refresh, and if it still doesn't work, we're not going to bother with it. Might be something that we do once we've got our internet upgrade, hey? But like I say, one of the bigger issues that I have with Incarnate is that you're at the whim of yeah. Oh, there we go. Beautiful. Yeah, that's fine. True style. That's fine. Let's make it small. Make it small. We don't want to we don't want to use all our bandwidth trying to make a sample map. Wow. So while that's thinking about life, death, and the universe, how about we move back over to our map that we're doing in Campaign Cartographer and possibly build like the entirety of our civilization before this thing decides to load? It's kind of proving my point for me, yeah? No internet, no play. Anyways, so we've got a bit of a mountain cluster happening up here. Does it look great? You get the point, right? But from here we can just sort of add little bits and bobs through and shift. Tab is still not working, because why would it? We'll go back down to our non-snow-topped section. Yeah, I'll just do that. Yeah, might just leave that one as is. Chuck a little mountain down here somewhere, maybe. Yeah, so you've got the basic idea of how we're going to be adding mountains and stuff. Now this is the part where we can really go into detail and sort of make it look as realistic as we want, but you know what? We've already sort of been here for an hour and all we've done is put down some mountains. So in the interest of not spending the next 20 years making it look pretty, we're just trying to give you an idea as to how to make things look nice. So we've got ourselves one of our mountain ranges. Beautiful. We can definitely have a few more in there, but let's have a think about rivers, because rivers kind of dictate where we're going to be putting our cities, because most cities, not all, most cities are situated on the coast with a source of fresh water nearby, because one cannot drink salt water. That's bad. You'll have a sad tummy and liquid motions. We don't want that. What we do want is a source of fresh water, and the coast is good because then we've got access to fish. We've got access to being able to go out on a boat and do boat activities like go look for other islands and ruin other people's days. Best of both worlds. So we want a river. Rivers will start from the mountain ranges. Now, this is where I kind of prefer Incarnate, being able to use a pen, because being able to actually, you know, draw out your rivers with that flow, much easier with a pen. But look, the tools that they've given us here, not so bad. They're okay. But I digress. We've got a river. Now, I'm going to start it at about this point, because I feel like that looks nice. And we're sort of going to weave it through here. There we go. We've got ourselves a river. So that's going to be one of the main rivers. We will add a couple of, can't think of the proper term, but a couple of can't speak today. It's funny what happens after a day of uni. Your brain turns to peanut butter. A couple of smaller rivers. We'll go with that. Smaller rivers running off to the side of that. Because as the land comes down, the water takes the path of least resistance, right? So if we're going to have a look at this section, essentially everything from there down is starting to run downhill in a sense. Rivers will sort of do that splitting off, so we'll do a small, as the ground sort of declines. So it wouldn't necessarily want to split off up here. You might get some stuff coming through here, like little creeks and stuff, but we're not going to be adding that to the map, because otherwise it's too much. It's too much. It's going to be hard to look at. But where it definitely would be splitting for us, sort of through here. Let's have a look at that. How does that look? I don't like that. It doesn't look realistic to me. It kind of looks like some spaghetti. So another good one that we can maybe do is perhaps around through here. Seems a little bit more reasonable. Maybe that continues down through there or something like that. We can play with that a bit later. We're just sort of getting the idea. I might have another little river running along through here. With a sister coming off here. Again, not a big fan of that. Looks a bit strange. I think more of a point up here. There we go. Look, that'll do for now. So we've got ourselves a little bit of a river system. Now, we could potentially turn this little section here into a bit of a lake. Perhaps the land sort of comes down like that. It would make more sense for the lake perhaps to be around this section here. But we like a nice lake, so let us maybe smooth. We'll have a try with both. Fractal sometimes looks a bit weird, so we're going to do river cut out. let's try that in comparison to just doing a river lake smooth, because we may decide that that actually works really quite nicely. Yeah, I think that's alright for now. Again, we're not here to make the world's most beautiful map, we're here to show the process of how I do things. Let me chuck another little lake there. Let's do a slightly better job of that. I know I'm saying not to be too precious, but at least want it to be slightly connected. Okay, so we've got a couple of little lakes and rivers. Maybe we can ditch this guy and have like a little couple of rivers or a couple of lakes instead. Not so much. Go back a bit. Yeah, look, I think that will do. I think normally you're not meant to have 2 exits out of a lake, but it's fine. We're just putting down some ideas. Alright, so we've got a couple of lakes, couple of rivers, nice little mountain range. If we were going to put a city down anywhere, I would be saying that right there, or maybe even there, would be our spot. So that being said, let's have a look at what 13th age gives us as far as structures go. You'll notice that they're just sort of square symbols. I actually quite like this for a world map. Again, we don't need everything to be super cluttered, but let's have a look at some other options that are potentially available to us. So, maps. What's another one that I quite like? Darklands is usually quite nice. The city style at least is. So yeah, we can decide to, on a bit of a tilt, we can decide to use that as a city symbol. Or perhaps, you know, a little castle, or, you know, there's a few different styles here. But for me at least, I kind of like that 13th age just symbol. I don't feel like it's necessarily, I don't think it's necessary to have the full art of the city, because like I say, what we'll end up doing is linking everything together anyway. We can definitely, if we wanted to, sort of put the city out there and have everything zoom in and be one big continuous map, but that's a lot of work, and you're not going to see it when you print it off. And most programs like Roll20 and Foundry and World Anvil, Legend Keeper, all of that sort of stuff, most of them will have a cap at 10 megabytes per upload. And if you start building things with so much detail that you're going to want to zoom in and zoom out of, you're going to be over that cap. You're not going to be able to use it. When you print it out, it's just a waste of time. The only person that's really going to appreciate it is you, which is nice, but at the end of the day, we're building maps for our players, not necessarily for ourselves. So yeah, I think this does more than what we need it to. So yeah, like I say, I just like to use this and I'll sort of have a legend of, okay, Star is a capital. So we've got ourselves a capital city there. Maybe there's a town over here. Not too sure. We'll start putting some forests and stuff down and make a decision. But we know for sure that at the conjunction of two rivers, well, as the two rivers flow into the ocean, this particular nation has set up their capital city there. They've got two sources of fresh water. They're able to travel through the rivers a decent amount. You know, this is a good spot as far as the city is concerned. So, how do we go about putting forests down? Now, in this style, it wants you to use the drawing tools. So essentially what it's going to want you to do is sort of draw out, again, we're just doing this loosey-goosey just to get the point across. Draw this out, and it's going to fade it out like that. Is this effective? Yes, it does look quite good. Is it way more time efficient than drawing out every single individual tree like I sometimes like to do? Also yes. But at the same time, we can also miss the button completely. Open up our symbols again. Go into cities. Darkland City. Vegetation. And then we've got individual trees, similar to how Incarnate works. So we can sit here and now the tab key works. Manaja. So we can chuck all these down. We're going to want to make sure that it's on the right layer so it doesn't ruin Christmas, but we can throw down all these little trees one by one. Sounds like a bit of a pain in the tuchus. The other thing that we can do, turn off our sheet effects so that we can grab things cleanly. We can go draw symbols in an area. We are going to go to symbols, cities. Where are you? Darkland City. I'm a bit blind. There it is. Darkland City. Vegetation. Beautiful. Now, we're going to chuck this one down. We don't really want it to do random selection from the group because then it's going to throw down burning bushes and stuff like that. Not really what we want. So we're just going to leave everything for now, just so you can see what happens. I'm going to click this, D for do it, and then it throws everything in, and you're like, oh my god, what a hot mess. We can tweak this. We can go into the drawer, symbols in an area, max symbols to place. Let's turn that down to 20. You'll see why in a moment. Chance to place 65. Size at edge, size at center. Okay, so what if we halve the size? What happens then? Much the same thing. Like I say, a lot of this is play around with it, because yeah, it's not going to be perfect every single time. Pattern, size at edge, symbol scaling. 1, 1. Big jump, right? Let's see what happens. Horizontal distance, vertical distance. Random, auto sort. One thing at a time. We'll try and get our sizing right. Alright, so now we can see that it's put down a lot of little trees. That's kind of the size that we're after. Maybe a little bit bigger. So, we're getting there. Because if you change everything, if you start playing with all the settings, then you're not going to know which setting worked. So we just do one at a time. till we get what we want. Because then after that, every single time we want to draw in a forest or any other little symbols that we're going to want to put into an area like this, it's going to be ready for us to go. We don't need to play around with it. So we do all the work now to save us the time later. Symbols in area. Let's go 10. See how that goes. Is that what we want? D. Do it. That's a little bit more like it, but I think that's slightly too big. So 5, 5, auto sort for now. D for do it. Multiband. We're now happy with what we're doing. So then, if we go symbols in area to the next style of tree, do it. Now, I'm pretty sure there's other ways that we can do this as well. Might even do it. And so on and so forth. So we can populate out an area by doing that. The alternate, and my screen has just turned off. Okay, just give me a moment. Stand by for technical difficulties. Think we need to get a new plug for the tablet. It's starting to get a bit touchy. So what was I saying before my laptop, my screen turned off? Yeah, that's one way of doing it. Let's see if Incarnate is now wanting to play. Well, oh, look at that! It's actually working. Beautiful. So now we've got an Incarnate, so I can show you the difference between the two tools. So to start with, we don't really want to. We're not going to get very far with Incarnate today, you guys. And like I say, this is the issue with a web-based map making program, is that you're at the whim of, yeah, water. Water is fine. Yes. No worries. Yes. No. All good. All right, let's use this pen, make our job a bit easier. We want water as the background. Nice and easy. Just color that in. Color it in like an adult coloring book on the toilet. What? You guys don't color on the toilet? Missing out. Missing out. Alright. Here we go. Foreground. What are we doing here? We are adding. So we're going to put down a little... Ooh, look at that. Spaghetti. We've got ourselves a little map. Awesome. I'm not super stoked on how it looks as a style, but that's just a personal preference. So let's go into the symbol section. And the screen's turned off. No, it's back on. And we've got a forest. Cool. Let's make a little forest. What we can do is play with the size a little bit. 10 is the smallest. Sometimes that's not small enough and you have to individually move everything. But the cool thing we can do is sort of draw them across, right? And it's added it in already. So already way quicker. But you don't have the same control. It's just going to sort of... It moves things out nicely, yes, but we also don't have the same control on that side panel. We don't get to play with as many layers, but you know what? It's free. So, like I say, everything that we're doing today or in this series, it doesn't matter whether you're using Campaign Cartographer, whether you're using Microsoft Paint. I'll be honest, my first maps were in Paint with a mouse, and I was just like putting down dots for the forest, and they actually came out really pretty. Like, if I can find that forest map for you guys, I'll share it with you. You don't have to spend money to make a good looking map. It is personal preference. Now, we've opened up the symbol library. We want to find a mountain. I'm not here all day to try and find, you know, I'm not going to go scrolling through things to try and find it. And of course the search function isn't very good. And you can only upload your own stuff if you're paying for it. So if you're using this as the free thing, you're pretty limited to what you can and can't do. That's fine. Surely there's mountains. Snow and ice? Is there a mountain in here? It's very strange. Oh, there's snowy trees, that's nice. Universal? Okay, that's just showing my stuff. Terrain? Okay, here we go. We've sort of got... Not really. Regional? Ah, okay. Rude. That's really weird that you don't get mountains. Okay, yeah, no. This is kind of why I stopped using Incarnate, because it's just like... I've just spent 2 minutes trying to find a mountain. It's good for free, but yeah, the two big points for me are a monthly subscription versus just a one-off payment. It's kind of a no-brainer, you know? And the symbol sets aren't really that different from one another. It's like as if there's only one artist who's been doing them, which is fine, definitely. And then, obviously, the web-based side of things, which is kind of painful. So, no hate to Incarnate. It's how I started. And it is quite enjoyable to use with the tablet, like I say, because you're actually able to sort of draw things out. But I feel like I've sort of outgrown it a little bit. And even CC3, there's sometimes that I'll actually use other programs to build maps. But as far as a world map goes, I do prefer Incarnate, CC3 for building world maps over Incarnate. That being said, you can build absolutely beautiful world maps with Incarnate. I just feel like you need a lot of patience to, and the sub to really get the most out of the program. But then, you know what, same can be said for CC3. To get the most out of the program, you kind of want to get at least a couple of the annual packs. Because CC3 Basic, not gonna lie, kind of looks like you're building maps in Paint. They're kind of old looking, like it looks like it's Windows XP kind of spec, you know? Whereas, like I say, the Darkland style has been absolutely beautiful. Yeah, it's... so just on this point, I'm going to get rid of those trees because we alt-tabbed out. It doesn't want to control Z anymore. So I'm going to select this, hide all, and then all we've got is that. So I can just go, see you later. And it's gone. Show all, hide, sketch, key text, and it all comes back up again. So for the sake of this map, and keeping things simple, stupid, we're actually going to just stick with the drawing tools that have been provided to us with the 13th age map style. So we've got this one that's kind of a bit splotchy. So if I just throw that out randomly, you'll see that it's sort of got, it makes it a little bit more random. That can be kind of cool. So getting rid of our random splotch just here. And this is why we turn off map style sometimes, because it can be hard to grab certain elements. Yeah, again, we're not here to be perfectionists, just stop thinking about the fact that you kind of want the river and stuff to sort of have a similar style to this. We don't need to worry about that. That's we'll be here all day. So what we are going to do is have a look through our various forest styles. I think pine woods is probably the most appropriate for around this snow region. So what we're going to do is, we've got that selected. I'm actually going to sort of follow this around a little bit. The forest is going to be on this side of the river. And maybe along through here too. Lovely. So we've sort of got a bit of a forested area. If we were to zoom all the way out to look at the world map as a whole, you can kind of see what's going on up there. And as things get filled in more and more, we'll be seeing more and more. So another little forested area, maybe on this side of the mountains. And with that sort of done there, I think that it would be reasonable. Symbols, maps, 13th age, structures. It would be reasonable to say that there is a city, or a town rather, just in here. And maybe, ooh, that's sort of floating off. We don't really want that, but we'll deal with that later. Maybe there can be another town in here. That makes sense. Lovely. So we've got some ideas for towns and cities. So if we have a look here, our equator's down here. We've got ourselves a bit of a cool climate area up here. I don't think that the forest that it's put down has really given it justice to sort of understand what's going on. So what we might actually do is see what happens if we extend out the snow region, because perhaps this can be our, like, not Arctic, but more more European winter type section. Perhaps, and that's the other thing we have to sort of decide. Are we looking at our map? Oh, sorry, I got itchy eye. Are we looking at our map in summer, or are we building our map in winter? So those are some things to consider as well. So if we were to leave it as is, we could argue, no, this is summer. So if it is sort of more of a summer map, it does mean that we have to put less ice islands in, which could be to our advantage. What about the background? That sort of dusty green colour that we've got for our default background perhaps isn't the most I don't think it's the most convincing as far as saying that this is a cooler section. It kind of has that sort of veldt African scrubland kind of look to it. And it doesn't seem as though there's anything in this style that kind of is tickling what we're after. So, this is where we get into some interesting things. What we are going to do is import bitmap fill styles. We're going to browse, bitmaps, tiles. So, surprise, surprise, I'm going to have a look in Darkland City because we've got all kinds of really pretty bitmap styles. From these sort of grasses to these rocks to the water ripples, which could come in handy on our rivers for just our regional maps. But what we're trying to find is something. Yeah, I don't think Darklands has got what we want. That's a pretty lush green, but it might be a bit too lush. So what we're actually going to do is, instead of city, we're going to go into dungeon. Now, I know that we have a pack called the Winter Trail, which is part of the 2023 annual set. As I've said, it's about 23 Australian dollars, maybe 30 Australian dollars, and you get the year's worth of content for the annual. So that's 12 styles. Sometimes they'll do styles for the cosmographer. Sometimes they'll do styles for the city builder. It's not always just for the base pack, but yeah, I find that the annuals can be quite good. So now we have, now we've got some nice styles for a northern type section of a map. We've got frosty, oh that's nice. We've got frosty grass, frosty heather. Heather is a type of shrub bush, usually growing in that sort of European area. Got frozen mud, snow and ice. So yeah, I think this is a nice pack to import in, and we'll do that. Don't play with any of that. You're gonna ruin your day. 6 fills have now been imported. Molto bene. So if we were to open this, you will notice that it is not actually in here. How do we fix that? Well, we can swap out something, or what we can do is prepare a layer so that we don't ruin our own day. I do it all the time. We'll stay on top of this. So I'm going to call this layer terrain cool climate. Potentially spell things incorrectly. It doesn't matter. So we've got that ready. It's not in the right section of the load order, but we'll play with that later. There's no sheet effects to be added. We'll play with that later. We just want that layer ready to go. Cool. We're now on terrain cool climate, and what we are going to do is we're going to use a polygon tool. May even use the fractal polygon tool because we're fancy. And what we're going to do is we are going to scooch along through here. We'll just start with this sort of section here. Cool. So it's just a pink line at the moment. Change properties. Sorry, I just had a moment of like, what just happened there? It's fine. One picked. D for do it. We want to get rid of that pink line eventually, but for now, we are going to scratch our eye because we are itchy. We are going to have a look through frosty grass. Let's try out some frosty grass. Fill style, let's go. It's a bit big. And like I say, we kind of want to get rid of that line. It seems to have gotten rid of itself. Not really in the right area, so let's move it up to behind the mountains. Behind the snow and behind the hills. Let's see how that goes. Interesting that it's still above the rivers. So what happens if I hide the rivers? Okay, that's a bit weird. Okay, there we go. It was just having a moment. I was a bit worried there. Okay, so that kind of looks like a bit of a dog's breakfast. Not gonna lie. And if we were to add, say, the edge fade that we have on even actually the ice, because that was quite strong, that edge fade. If we were going to add that to here, it still looks a bit weird. So now that you can actually see my whole screen, we can actually see what I was talking about last week. What we're going to do is go up to this section here that says Hills Grey 2 CA blah blah blah. Bitmap files. We're going to look for our frosty grass. Find, because it tends to grab the low quality one, and we don't want the low quality. We want the frosty grass high PNG. And remember, we can also import our own styles that we've made in Photoshop or Paint or whatever. So, okay, it's doing this again, is it? Likes to pull it up on the other screen, so go up to find frosty grass. Frosty grass. Now, what it's actually doing is scaling it. Actually, it's unscaled. So, we're going to play around with what happens if, and all of a sudden, it's a bit more, it's a bit smaller. Now, when you zoom in on it, it looks a bit like, whoa, that's some big grass. But we've got to remember that we're doing a map that is designed to be looked at essentially from out here. How does that look? I actually think that perhaps that's enough for now, as far as the scaling for that frosty grass. So we might just leave that as is, and I might actually have a look at the rivers. Okay, so rivers has got a bevel. I kinda, we're gonna add potentially a glow. We'll see how that looks. That's not the right style of glow. So what if we do outer glow and we do a nice blue color? Okay, so sort of doing what I want it to do, but not quite. You can see what I'm trying to achieve here. What we're going to do is, let's have a look, see. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to grab those two. We are going to copy We're coming down to our rivers, and we are going to paste. By pressing paste, not Control C, Control V. And now we have ourselves a similar design to what's going on over there, which kind of looks cool, but I don't know if it's really going to do what we want it to do. My god, the wind outside is insane. It's good enough for now. As we fill things out, it'll do what we want it to do. But either way, we've got that kind of frosty vibes happening up the top there, which makes me sort of go, okay, well, if you were going to start an adventure here, you've got we've got to think about whether this is a heavily populated area, whether this is something that is sort of sparsely populated. So are we thinking that between the capital and its satellite towns, how many days of travel on foot would it take to get there? Because back in the ye olde days, and the other thing is we need to consider what is our tech level for our world. Because if we're going to sit here and say, no, classic D&D, medieval vibes, traditionally speaking, you'd have about a day's walk between like cities and villages, nothing more than that. Most people wouldn't be moving more than 25 miles from their homes ever, from the day they're born. They just sort of stick to that area. Is this area that we're building now a more remote area? Is it perhaps 2 days travel between our capital and our satellite towns? How does this city connect with any of the others? Are they very recluse? Do they only want to hang out with their own culture? These are the sort of things that you need to start thinking about as we start popping things down on the map. And of course, what are the borders of this area going to look like? Do they just sort of keep themselves confined to what we can see on the screen? Are the mountain ranges a natural border? Are they friends with their neighbours? Perhaps there is a road that weaves its way through the mountains to their neighbours who maybe hang out over on this side in a less, like the mountains sort of almost block that frost, and perhaps it's more of a bountiful green area, still with the pine forests and the deciduous forests. But like I say, these are the sort of things that we think about as we weave our world. And I haven't forgotten last week's addition to our world of a mysterious portal in the ocean that takes us perhaps to the heavens, or perhaps to the underworld, depending on the mood of the portal. We've got that embedded in our map. But as a starting point, this is looking quite nice. Is it perfect? No. Would I be spending the next few months trying to make those rivers look absolutely perfect? And yes, I would. We're not going to do that. I don't want to drive you guys crazy. But we will start to move on at this point over to this side of the map. I'm wondering if it would be worth having some more snow caps up here. I'm going to leave it. Instead, what we're going to do is add in some pine forest. Mainly so we don't have to deal with that trace function again. Coming through on here. Although, perhaps we'll do some rivers first. No, we'll start with this. Okay, so we've got a little bit of a foresty area up there. Maybe we'll put our frosty grass up there as well. Ooh, bit too far out of the lines there, girly. Backspace. Exit. Okay, okay. We've made a hot mess. That's fine. Everything's fine. Okie dokie. So the backspace function doesn't want to work with this tool, but that's fine. Not to worry. Lovely. Zoomy, zoomy. So we've got a little bit of stuff happening there. Let's have a look at some rivers. River default. So he comes down there. I feel like there might even be another river that sort of joins in through here. Let us find the small river coming from here. And no, me no like that. He's a yucky. Instead, we do small river coming from here. Yes, bit nicer. Maybe also come from over here. Let's have a look. No. I think that's a nice little start. More rivers over, more lakes over that side. There's a bit more of a bit more rainfall happening over that side of the mountain, but we do still get a little bit of rain. Hence, there is some rivers, albeit a little bit less formed than over the other side. Okay, let's have a look. Not a huge fan, but as I say, does the job. Perhaps another river comes off from here and starts flowing down. That could be kind of cool, but for now we'll leave that. We've kind of got like a bit of a bit of an area there. Let's add in some more forest. Where is it? We want to add in the pine woods. And let's have a look. We're going to go pine through here. Pretty sure we put down deciduous up there, which is technically not what we were wanting to do, but we'll let it roll. We got that, and we'll also sort of chuck in some patches through here. As well. Lovely. And I think it might be worth chucking down that frosty grass. Maybe the frosty heather. Let's have a try with the frosty heather. Or the snowy heather. I can't quite remember what they called it. We don't need to be perfect. Excellent. Okay, so that's the frosty grass look. That looks quite nice, but I think I want to have a try with the heather. Make sure we've only got one thing picked. Frosty heather. Ah, big, huge, blur, yuck. Same thing as what we did before. Pull up our bitmap style properties. Frosty heather. Find Frosty heather. And I think our scaled width was it 100? I can't remember. We'll soon find out. Yes. So it's looking pretty saucy. And if we click on this little button up here, the one that's kind of got like the arrows popping out with the magnifying glass, you can sort of see how things are sort of starting to cook along. So lovely. As we come back in again, oh, the other tool that I find quite useful is this one, where we can just sort of get it to zoom into where we ask it to. So the box with the magnifying glass up in the top right corner zooms in where you ask it to. Is very nice. I'm thinking that we want another sort of mountain over here. So we're going to open up our symbols again. We're going to go to mountains. I think this one, because it's a nice big mountain, I think it can have a snow top on it. Let's see. Guess what's working now? The tab button. You gotta laugh sometimes, you know. Alright. So, we've got mountain. When things work, it's just so nice. Because that one's... Okay. Let's behave. Symbols, mountains. Check. Apply. Okay, let's be nice. Be nice to me. Symbols, mountains. This one, nice big mountain. Beautiful. Look. Very nice. And it's going back under again. So, this is the point where we sit here and go, we play our favorite game of which sheet is ruining our day. Let's have a cheeky beaky. If we go terrain, cool, climate. Cool. So we successfully nailed our custom terrain. Great, no worries. So who is giving us the hard time? Is it land features? Apparently, instead of putting things on symbols, mountains, it has put it on land features. A good-o. Well, at least we know. So now we can move this bad boy up. Wait a minute. Is up more up? Okie dokie, moving down. So then, like I say, this is my favorite part of building a map is, so then who, is he mountains? Is he on mountains? Why is he up there? Okay, he's on mountains. So nothing like a little bit of consistency. I think what happened, so the reason that the tab button wasn't working was that it wasn't quite picking up that it was a campaign cartographer import. So it put it on its own separate sheet. That's fine. No stress. We know where everything is now. So all we need to do is move our mountains down. That's fine. We can, if we want to, put all the mountains on the same sheet, so that way it, you know, we can be consistent. So what I'm going to do is finish off this section here, and then we'll get them all on the one sheet and get rid of the extra one. So we've got that nice big mountain. I tell you what, that wind is going nuts out there. I think this guy could be nice to have here, and we'll chuck him across there. Pardon me. The next thing I would like to do is, remember how we had this terrain hills? I think he could be worth putting down on top of everything. And I just wanted to make sure that I've got my right. Okay, so I'm not even grabbing the right section. That's fine. So we'll move you back up again. Perhaps it was mountains that we had it on. Yes, it was. Molto bene. Okay, so we want to move our mountains down a little bit so that they are a little bit more visible, and we want to edit that edge fade because it's a little bit too heavy, I think. So let's see it at 0.2. That's a bit better. There we go. Lovely. And we'll unhide that, so we've got our full look, and now we've got ourselves a bit of a mountain range happening up there. We've got some rivers. We've got one country. We haven't completely filled them out yet. So on the other side of this mountain range, because they're utilizing that as a natural border, we are going to put down another city. We're going to try and make sure that it's the same size. We'll zoom in a little bit because my eyesight is not very good. That's about right. And we'll make these guys, I just picked purple randomly, but we will make these guys green? No, green might blend in a little bit too nicely. We'll make them orange. Now, I think their capital could well be perhaps either beside this river here, so they've got clear access to the southern sections as far as the capital goes. I think that's nice, so we'll put that. No, it's not straight. Oh, that upsets me. Oh, yuck. Damage. What is going on here? I think that's straight now. Yes, that's a bit better. So we'll put them there. And then as far as towns go, let's make these a little bit smaller. That's about the same size. I think a town over here is going to be nice, and maybe even up here or between. I think here could be nice. Maybe even there, and that's a good start. So we've got a nice northern tip of our map. Like I say, there's a nice sort of understanding that this is a more cool, temperate climate. The forests up here are mostly things like pines, some birches, that sort of classical Baltic, European kind of growth. But we've got a nice idea as to what's happening here. Like I say, when it comes to actually doing a continent map as a whole piece, we can be a little bit more nitty gritty, but there's no point in getting really, really lost into the details when you think about it, that's all you're really going to be seeing on a map anyway. And with that being said, if we were to pull it up to about this, because realistically that's the A4 size of paper, I would argue that those map markers for our towns are actually too small. But we can deal with that once we're putting our finishing touches. We're just sort of penciling things in at the moment. So with that being said, we are at 1:46. About 15 minutes left in the stream, because we like to stick to a 2-hour window. What I'd like to sort of do next week is perhaps break things up a little bit, do something a little bit different. I'm thinking that it could be kind of cool to perhaps map out this city over here and then link it back into this map. So essentially, as a DM, if you're using CC3, you can sit here, click on this symbol here, have it linked to your city, and we can play in a little bit like that. Obviously, we'll be following the same method as we have for the past week. We'll start off by doing our housekeeping, answering any questions that you guys put into the DDA Discord, or even on Facebook. Feel free to send me a personal message at botanical.media. Instagram as well, same tag, botanical.media. I'm happy to answer any questions there and then, and I'll also answer them on stream. And yeah, like I say, we don't want to just keep sort of doing the same thing every week, because that's just going to get boring. So next week we'll play with some cities, and then we'll sort of start filling in some lower down sections. Maybe we'll play with the idea of doing a cheeky battle map and showcasing a different program. That could be kind of cool. But yeah, for today, we'll not be adding any more to our maps here. And I think it's worth, like I say, we did have a crack at Incarnate. It's not my favorite program, but please, if you love Incarnate, I encourage you to keep using it. It is a great free alternative that makes beautiful maps for nothing. It's just to get the most out of it, you've got that premium window. That being said, thank you all for joining me today. If you haven't already, follow us on Twitch, join our Discord, join the Facebook group, and we've got Instagram as well, all D&D Australia, Dungeons and Dragons Australia, and for my own personal socials, we've got botanical.media, either on Facebook, so Facebook/botanical.media, or Instagram, botanical.media, where I'm sharing all my artworks, my various maps and stuff that we are doing. And once again, a huge thank you to everybody who has been joining us for the last 2 weeks, who have been asking questions, getting involved in the stream. Huge thank you to D&D Australia for giving me this opportunity. And a massive thank you to everybody in our community, whether or not you're here. Without you guys, D&D Australia couldn't exist, and it is such an awesome community, such a welcoming community, where we can all share our passion for this incredible hobby. I hope that you all enjoyed the stream, and as I've said, if there are any questions at all that you have, in the DDA, Dungeons and Dragons Australia Discord, there is a botanical world building section where you guys can ask the questions that you may have regarding CC3, perhaps regarding my method of world building, anything, and I will answer on the stream next week, or I can also answer on the spot in the Discord channel as well. You may also reach out to me at botanical.media and ask me questions there. It's up to you. Wherever you want to ask these questions, ask away. I said it last week, I'll say it again. Those who subscribe to the Twitch channel here at D&D Australia will have access to the full HD versions of the maps that we create through our journeys in the World Builders Compendium, along with any stat blocks that we come up with when we get up to building monsters and NPCs. You'll have access to the compendium that we use. I don't want to give any spoilers on the program that I've used specifically, but everything that we build throughout this stream, our subscribers and our YouTube members will have full access to that. Those who haven't subscribed, that's totally fine. We'll be giving you some little bits as well. But you know, we want to give back to our subscribers and supporters. So that being said, that's enough rambling out of me today. Thank you again to everybody who has been a part of this journey. It's meant a lot. I understand that 12 p.m. on a Friday is a bit of a weird time. It's the day off I have from uni. It is what it is. But they are all recorded. So, we'll see you next week at 12 p.m. Hopefully I'll be back in my study. If not, you get to look at this boring brown wall behind me. And everybody be safe. Everybody roll 20s throughout your week. And I hope that you enjoy your weekends in whatever capacity that may be. Thank you again, and we'll see you all next week.